It's March Mania at Sports Interaction. NHL, NBA, March Madness, MLB, and so much more. Crazy odds and the best live in play. Download the app in Ontario, use the QR code that you see at the bottom of your screen, or head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN to get started. 19 and over, please play responsibly. The results of the 2022-2023 NHLPA Player Poll were released. A bunch of different topics in terms of with questions like, if you need to win one game, who's the goalie you would want on your team? Which forward do you think is the most impactful? Top defenseman in the game? All these different questions. Really interesting results as far as I'm concerned. Not too many surprises, but I'd love to know your thoughts on some of those results, CJ.
Well, I love that they do this. The one thing I'd say, I kind of would love to see the after dark version of this players poll, like some of the more, in the past, actually, Julian, I know that they used to do, say, like the worst ice in the league. But it created so many headaches, obviously upsetting those ice crews. There's a lot of behind the scenes sort of stuff. So they tried to focus more on the positive. But I'd love to know, like, who's the coach you'd least want to play for, or which organization do you think is farthest from winning the Stanley Cup? Or, I'm not looking to pick on any cities here, but I was gonna say, like, which city do you least look for, at least want an off day in, or stuff like that. Like, I think that that could be kind of fun. But it's a good exercise. I don't know if you noticed, actually, recently the NFL players did a poll where they ranked, like, the way that they travel, the way their families are treated, the various equipment and facilities that each team has. And I think that would be interesting too, if the NHLPA ever went down that road with its players, because, let's face it, the players are the ones experiencing the league in a different way. It's really a league for them. It's to display their talents. And I think it's cool to hear their views on these things.
I would love to see a list of teams going through similarly what the NFL kind of had their players go through, and then you see, like, this team is ranked this letter grade in terms of training equipment or equipment staff or just facilities, like which team has the best facilities, which ones have the lowest ranked. Like, that I think would be very, very interesting. And maybe they have some kind of internal poll, but, like, I would love to see that. Not even
they don't do that. And it's interesting in the NFL, like, I'm pretty sure it's literally meant to sort of shame certain teams or owners into improving these things, right? Like I think that it's not just there to embarrass someone or give the media a headline. I think you're trying to spotlight, gaps or issues that exist in certain places and kind of air them in public. And you hope that there's a response from those organizations. I'm pretty sure that the Washington Commanders were, like, pretty sure they were last in, like, everything. And that's a team that's up for sale right now. And so, when that poll comes out, and when or if there's a new owner there, I mean, maybe that gets some things changed. I'm sure the NHLPA could use it to similar effect, although there's probably a cost benefit analysis, right? Like, how much is it worth pissing people off? Because obviously they have to do regular business with the NHL. They have to, reach agreements. I mean, eventually, we talked about best on best at the start of the show. Eventually, there's going to be a best on best tournament. It's going to be done in conjunction with the union and the league. And so, I don't know if we'll ever see that kind of thing in the NHLPA, but, I'd like to see it. I'm with you. Like, in terms of the poll itself, I mean, there wasn't too many surprises. A lot of love for McDavid and Crosby and kind of the guys that you would expect. But, that's sort of the ultimate respect, though. If you're those players, like, that's got to be pretty cool to get that kind of shout out from your peers. I think it's even more important than the media giving you love, or even the fans. I think that having the respect of your peers, if you appeared anywhere on this poll, that's a little feather in your cap.
I love which player do you least enjoy playing against but would like to have on your team? And Brad Marchand getting 36.5% of the vote. It's the truth.
I'm surprised it wasn't higher. Like, who wouldn't want him on their team? Like, we're talking about a guy that's probably, I think he's on a Hockey Hall of Fame trajectory, Brad Marchand. Like, I think he's that good as a player. And he's also, pretty known agitator. He gets it done in the clutch. Like, he's everything you want in a playoff style player. So you'd almost think it'd be 100%. I mean, who else got votes on that list? I don't have the list in front of me.
Connor McDavid was second at 15.6. Tom Wilson at 8.1%. Matthew Tkachuk at 6%. And Victor Hedman. I was surprised about Not to say that, I mean, he's a big body guy. You do not, I would imagine going up against him every night would be a pain. I guess it's just considering the people that are above him in terms of agitators with Marchand, Wilson, Kachuk. Hedman was just not the first person I would have thought would have gotten there, but he's there at 3.9%.
Right. And he's one of the guys that I know a little bit better in the league. Like he's such a sweet man too. Like you don't think of him as being out there. Maybe talks a lot of trash. I mean, who knows? I mean, it's still respect though. It's a different form, kind of a backhanded compliment maybe, but it's a form of respect to appear on that list. And as I say, I would have Brad Marchand every day if I was filling that out.
And then most underrated player, Alexander Barkov again. Like, when do we get him out of the underrated trajectory or the tier? Because it feels as if we've been calling Alexander Barkov underrated ever since he entered the league. Like, it feels like almost every year it's just, nope, he's underrated. He's underrated. 23% of the vote for who was the most underrated player, and Tage Thompson second at 4.3%.
Well, the whole notion of underrated, like it's a strange concept to talk about anyone as underrated, because if you're hyping up anyone, then you're by definition rating them, right? I think maybe the only way that for Barkov is if he plays somewhere other than Florida, or if Florida, and look, they made a long way last year winning the President's Trophy, but if Florida becomes more of a force in the league, then he won't be underrated because he's going to be playing primetime games and playing playoff games and all that stuff in the spotlight. But I think there's a whole, it's not unfair to say someone who plays their whole career for the Panthers doesn't get a lot of attention. It's not a big media market in terms of the way that teams covered locally. It doesn't get a lot of national attention. And, last year was a big step forward. This one's been a bit of a step back, although I think it looks like they might actually, find their way into the Eastern Conference wildcard picture and get back to the playoffs. But, that franchise is still trying to earn a little bit of respect. I think it's fair to say that.
One question I thought was really weird, only because, like, I mean, there's no way for all the voters to see everyone's shoes, but who has the best shoe game? Not saying Austin Matthews wouldn't have the best shoe game. I'm just curious, like, how do are players even looking at that? Like, I don't know. I was just a bit surprised that question was even there.
Well, obviously all players probably aren't, but maybe the younger guys are. Like most teams nowadays do have like the walk-in shots of their players, on Insta or even on Twitter. And so, I've seen like Sarah Civ does sort of a style ranking of the players based on those shots. And, I do think there is more attention on that kind of thing. And probably some of the younger guys, and certainly, like some of the Leafs players who I spent a time around, like they clearly put a lot of effort into it. And Matthews and Nylander, Marner, I mean, these guys are not just showing up in a typical business suit very often there. And, the Leafs have a more casual dress code, so they can wear sneaks with their suits. It doesn't have to be sort of business casual. So, I don't know. You're right. I bet some veterans are filling this thing out and probably like, what the heck? Like, what do I put for this? But I also do think that the younger, there's some dialed in guys that live on social media and play in the NHL, and they're no doubt they have some opinions on the sneakers and the best dressed and all that stuff.
What's your shoe game like, CJ?
It's not particularly strong. I'm not gonna lie. I've got a couple go-to pairs. Like I buy nice shoes and want my feet to be comfortable, but I don't have like 30 pairs of shoes in my house or anything like that. I'm a pretty simple man. It will not surprise you to learn that, I'm sure.
Do you have more running shoes than dress shoes?
Yes.
Like running, like when you're like proper running footwear.
Yes, I probably have like 5 pairs of running shoes now, or maybe even more. Okay. I like to rotate between them. Like I don't wear the same pair every day because I'm trying to avoid having like repetitive stress issues. So plus I have winter ones. Like anyway, yeah, I got a lot of running shoes. I'm probably spending more money on running shoes in a year than I am on shoes that I would wear, either dress shoes or comfy shoes or what have you.
That's fair. Okay. One other thought I had in my head, I wonder if it's worth doing some kind of SDPN player poll where we do something similar. We put together questions and then everyone across the network tries to do something similar like this, where we just get everyone to vote like on similar questions. Like if you need one goalie to win the game, who's the goalie you'd want on your team. I think didn't we have something similar like that last year, I think.
We should do one. I mean, first of all, it's free content for the socials. I mean, it just makes sense. We could spearhead this. I mean, we've got everyone's contact.
I think we should.
You and I can come up with 5 or 6 questions and spread around the group chat, and there we go. We could be the change you want to see in the world, Julian.
I think that's something we should put together. And I think we should go beyond the group chat. This should be something that like even all the SDPN Game Over shows should do. A SDPN player poll where we get everyone to vote. All right.
If you had one podcaster to win the Stanley Cup, who would you want to podcast with?
Okay, well, you. That's easily you. You're going to win.
Okay, now
I'm picking you.
We should make it absurd. We could have the best shoes on the SDPN. I don't know who would win that, but
ooh, if I don't win that, I'll be very upset. I realized when we're going through some of the results, there are at least like let's go through like the 3, or maybe not 3, but like there's a few other ones we should probably just like discuss. If I know there weren't a lot of surprises, but like best stick handler going to Patrick Kane, we should mention top defenseman going to Cale Makar. Must-win game. Which forward do you think would be the most impactful? Connor McDavid getting almost 60% of the vote, and Andre Vasilevsky. If you need one game, who's the goalie you want on your team? Andre Vasilevsky getting 52.3% of the vote, more than reigning Vezina Trophy winner Igor Shesterkin at 4.8%.
Well, Vazzy's been in 3 straight Cup finals, my man.
Yeah, hard to go against that.
I mean, I'm not saying he's the best goalie in the moment. But if you're getting down to that one game kind of thing, like he's got the Carey Price kind of swagger from Carey Price's heyday. Like it's not just about measuring save percentages or goals saved above expected. It's about who's going to get the job done. I mean, and you know, when they won the Cup in 2021, remember he had all those shutouts in the closing games. Like he is, he's a killer between the pipes. Like yeah, that would be my goaltender. That would be my pick if you had asked me that.
Don't get me wrong. That would be my goaltender too. It's just to see that having over 50% of the vote is one thing. To have Igor Shesterkin, who fine, not having the greatest season at just under 5%, is just really telling about how confident everyone else is in Vasilevsky. And I guess for the other categories, not surprised so much with McDavid. Cale Makar at 64 again. Stick handler, Kane is just bonkers as well. But good to see McDavid also at under 30% as well. But yeah, not that crazy.
I like to see a little bit of representation from the olds on this list. So,
I mean, does Joe Pavelski count as an old?
Yes.
He's the leader of who affects the game most around the net. I thought Matthew Tkachuk would have gotten more votes than 8.8% of the votes.
The players know, man. The players know.